behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice.
What happened today near the White House wasn't supposed to be possible. 2 National Guard members, armed, trained, and standing in one of the most protected zones in America, were shot before anyone even realized they were in danger. One moment they were keeping watch. The next, they were fighting for their lives on a sidewalk steps from the executive mansion. And the question echoing across Washington is simple. How did this happen in broad daylight? You're about to hear a story that exposes cracks we've ignored for years. Stay with me, because once you understand what unfolded at 17th and I Streets, you'll start questioning the safety of every place you thought was secure. It started as a routine afternoon, clear skies, normal traffic, people walking past without a hint of fear. 2 West Virginia National Guard members posted on their high-visibility patrol, doing what so many Americans take for granted, showing up to protect a city that relies on their presence. But that presence didn't protect them. At around midday, a lone gunman approached. No warning, no argument, no moment for reaction. He raised a handgun and fired at close range. In seconds, both guardsmen collapsed. Radios dropped, bystanders froze, and a street that tourists walk through every day became the center of a national emergency. Police rushed in almost instantly. The suspect was detained right there at the scene. Yet even with that rapid response, the weight of the moment settled heavily over the city. Because this wasn't just an attack. This was a message that something is slipping, something society keeps pretending is under control. As sirens echoed and officers shut down the block, word spread through Washington faster than traffic alerts. 2 guardsmen, critical. The shooter, in custody. Motive, unknown. And an unsettling detail soon emerged. As according to senior federal officials, the FBI is investigating this as a possible act of terrorism. The suspect, believed to be an Afghan national, is now under a microscope. Every part of his background, movements, and communications is being traced. But the early confusion, the uncertainty about his identity, only deepens the feeling that whatever happened here wasn't random. And when you think about the families of these guardsmen, the spouses who were expecting a normal check-in later that day, the parents who believed their children were safe while serving their country, the gravity of this moment becomes almost unbearable. Stay with me, because this situation goes far beyond a shooting. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about security, accountability, and the systems that keep failing before tragedy strikes. If you're watching this, take a second to subscribe so you receive updates as more details break, because this story is moving quickly and every new fact is raising harder questions. Let's return to that intersection. 17th and I, a place where you see joggers, office workers, students, tourists, the everyday rhythm of Washington. It's a location layered with cameras, a location patrolled by federal and local officers. Yet the attacker reached 2 trained soldiers without drawing attention. Think about that. Think about how many people must walk past those guards each day, believing their presence alone makes the area untouchable. And now imagine how wrong that assumption was. Mayor Muriel Bowser addressed the city bluntly. She confirmed the condition of the guardsmen. Her tone carried the weight of a leader who understands that, despite assurances, the public is scared. The nation is watching, and the trust people place in visible security has been cracked in a single afternoon. Behind closed doors, FBI analysts began tearing apart the suspect's history. They're checking databases, passport records, phone logs, and any trace of communication. But initial reports point to something even more unsettling, that the suspect wasn't on any major federal watch lists. No alerts, no warnings, no pre-incident signals strong enough to trigger intervention. And that reality hits harder than anything else because it tells us danger doesn't always look the way we expect. It doesn't always come with online threats or suspicious movement. Sometimes it walks up quietly without drawing a single suspicious eye and changes everything in seconds. Images from the scene began spreading online almost immediately. Officers forming a perimeter, evidence markers, paramedics working urgently. The kind of images that force the public to face the truth. The people we rely on for stability are vulnerable too. And when National Guard members, symbols of authority, readiness, and protection, fall victim to an attack in such a public place, the country is forced into an uncomfortable reflection. A reflection on preparedness, a reflection on oversight, a reflection on the cost of ignoring weak points. As this documentary continues, we will break down the investigative timeline, the suspect's path through the city, the gaps in interagency communication, and the emotional toll this incident is already placing on the Guard community nationwide. The story is nowhere near finished. Stay tuned, because the deeper investigators go, the more troubling the questions become. Questions that demand answers. Investigators expanded their search radius within minutes, pushing outward from the crime scene and into the neighborhoods surrounding the White House corridor. Every camera, every traffic pole, every storefront with a lens pointed toward the street became a potential source of clarity. And yet, the early footage didn't offer much. The suspect's movements before the attack appeared quiet, controlled, almost routine. The kind of behavior that blends into the background until it suddenly doesn't. What did stand out was the way he navigated the area. He seemed familiar with the layout, the timing of pedestrian flow, and even the posture of the guardsmen on duty. That level of awareness suggests planning, but planning done in silence, without the usual trail of red flags law enforcement relies on. It forces a difficult question. How many people move through federal zones unnoticed, watched by cameras that only matter after something goes wrong? Agents began contacting federal offices located near the incident. Employees were interviewed door by door. Some recalled seeing a man matching the early description earlier in the day, lingering near a curb or passing by a security post more than once. No one thought much of it at the time. In a city filled with thousands of unfamiliar faces, it's easy for a stranger to blend into the swirl of movement. But in hindsight, that ordinary anonymity now looks like a major oversight. While investigators worked through eyewitness accounts, analysts turned inward, assessing the National Guard deployment structure. The guardsmen on patrol that afternoon had followed established procedures, uniforms visible, movements coordinated, communication steady. But those procedures were built under a long-standing belief that visual presence alone is enough to discourage attacks near high-security zones. This incident forced leadership to reconsider that assumption. If you're still watching, take a moment to subscribe for continued updates as this investigation widens. Every new piece of information changes the direction of the case. Inside FBI headquarters, a separate team focused entirely on the suspect's personal connections. Early interviews with people who may have known him painted a picture of someone who avoided attention. Quiet at work, limited social circles, minimal digital footprint. No statements or posts that indicated anger toward the military or the government. It left investigators questioning whether his motives were driven by ideology, personal issues, or something far more complex. Beyond the technical investigations, a different kind of pressure was building. Lawmakers began demanding briefings, asking how someone could approach uniformed personnel in such a tightly monitored zone without triggering alarms. Behind closed doors, officials faced tough conversations about the balance between public access and national security. Everyone in those rooms knew the truth. The public expects answers faster than the investigation can realistically deliver them. Across the Potomac, medical teams continued fighting for the guardsmen's survival. Their condition remained unchanged, and updates grew scarce. The silence from the hospital added another layer of tension, a reminder that the human cost of this attack was still unfolding. Families waited for every update, knowing each hour could shift their lives permanently. Meanwhile, the suspect remained in custody under constant supervision. Interrogators worked through carefully structured interviews, but early reports suggested he wasn't offering much. Some investigators believe he may be withholding information intentionally. Others argue he may be too overwhelmed to process the situation. The uncertainty only deepened the frustration for officials trying to piece together the motive. Authorities also began reviewing how many people were present at the intersection during the shooting. They identified office workers, tourists, service members, and commuters. Dozens of people stood within sight of the attack, yet very few noticed anything unusual until the shots were fired. That detail continues to trouble investigators because it highlights a gap between vigilance and the assumption that danger always comes with warning signs. Stay with this investigation. More details will surface, and each one will push this case in new directions. The next phase will focus on the suspect's timeline before arriving at the intersection, a timeline that may reveal whether he acted alone or followed guidance from someone else. The unanswered questions keep growing, and the country is watching to see who will take responsibility for the failures exposed here. The investigation is far from over.